Hey everybody, sorry I'm late. I was finishing up throwing or getting some stuff cooked on the grill, so my apologies for that. Let me get this thing muted here. Let's see who all we have watching. We got Brandon. How are you doing? Jimmy's Tractor, Kai Davis, SS Mario One says hello from Port Unimi, California. I guess. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I'm not sure. West Coast Kenny, how are you doing? Crane Up Mike, Andy B, Kai Davis, Josh Wellner, Jason Heltzley, Nathan Shetler, hello, how are you? Videos by Al, Ryan Robinson says, woohoo, let's get this party started. Yeah, so my apologies for being tardy. Richard Savalio, how are you doing? Nathan Mitz, hey, thanks for the happy Father's Day. And before we get too far into this, happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Justin McKee, hi from Hiawatha, Kansas. I may be rolling through there. Trying to think. I think we may have a job out that way here pretty soon. Dickard with Dave. How are you doing, Dave? And then also before Sandy, how are you doing, Sandy? Before we get too deep into this, Kai Davis asked a question in comments when I posted on the community tab about doing a live stream tonight, and he asked if a crane operator has to go to college to become a crane operator. So don't let me forget that. W. Ball, how are you doing? Digger to Dave, Love and Life in Ontario. John Warren, how are you doing, John? So, okay, to answer your question, Kai, you don't have to go to college to be a crane operator. However, there is a lot of information you have to learn. So, don't think you're going to just jump in the seat without figuring out what all has to happen and getting some instruction. If you're still in high school, I'm not sure if you're in high school or not. Bella Stevens, how are you doing? And thanks for the happy Father's Day. And tell your mom I said hello. Nathan Mitz said it right there. You have to get your NCCO or an equivalent recognized crane certification. But if you're still in high school or you're just out of high school, math is something you're going to use every day in a crane. However, it's not the crazy algebra, geometry, all of that stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of it, but typically it's basic math. And then as long as you can calculate for surface areas like square footages or square inches and a little bit of some angles so you can calculate your rigging loads and whatnot, then you'll be fine. Everything else is pretty much learned on the job. So let's see. GoPro guy, how are you doing? Kai Davis says, okay, my dad runs a Grove 60-ton crane. So your dad ought to be able to help you out with that. And you said you're good at math. So you should be okay. If you have some math skills and you're good at learning instruction from other people, following direction, knowing wrong from right and right from wrong, and have some good common sense, you should do okay. Construction Cronies, how are you doing, Chris? Says, oh man, I'm just running out. I hope to catch you when I get back. I'll be on for a couple hours, so hopefully you can make it back in time. And I apologize for not having you on here on this one, Chris. I just decided this morning that I was going to get this in, and I skipped out on last weekend. What do we have last weekend? I don't remember. I don't even remember what I did hardly yesterday. I've slept since then. John Lawrence is doing good, heading for DeKalb, Illinois, then reload, heading to our area. So John Warren has been a longtime subscriber of the channel, and he's actually going to be in St. Joe tomorrow in my area. He's got a load to drop off. He's the truck driver based out of the state north of me. And so we're going to meet up tomorrow evening, probably go eat some food, do a little sightseeing. I'm going to take him around, show him the town. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. May record a little footage of his truck. He said he might have it clean when he rolls in. It just depends on the weather. But I don't know. Do you guys want me to record some of the sightseeing that John and I go do tomorrow? Like, we'll probably, I Oh, there's some history in the area. Jesse James's home's here, Pony Express stables. So I'll probably take him to see some of that. So if you guys want to see some of that, I'll record it while we're out driving around and shooting the breeze. If John's good with being on camera, or at least his audio being on camera. Billy Laptop, thanks for the $25,000 super, or $25,000. I wish it was $25,000 super chat. But anyway, thanks for the $25 super chat. You didn't have to do that, but it's greatly appreciated. He said, "Happy Father's Day. Hope St. Joe is finally drying out." It is drying out here, but they're saying the river's going to be up until November. So realistically, with the way the river's going to be running for the next at least 4 months, we're just really one big rainfall away from having to move shipping containers away from the casino again, and a bunch of other catastrophic stuff that's happening in the area. There's literally towns north of here and south of here that the levees have broken on that aren't going to be dry until the river gets back down to below flood stage or pretty close to, because the levees are blown out. So those communities and those areas, they're going to be worthless for at least until November, probably. So let me try to get caught up on comments here. Nathan Mid says, learn how to read load charts. Absolutely. Construction Cronies says, happy Father's Day. And if any of you guys missed that on my community tab, I think it was a week ago Friday that I did my first YouTube interview on Construction Cronies channel. So I think he may still have that live stream up. I'm not sure. Paul Wollner, how you doing? Thanks for the happy Father's Day. Off tomorrow, so I get to see the live stream midnight here in the UK. That's pretty late there. Senseless Fabrication says happy Father's Day. I appreciate that. Sir, hope your day is going good. Construction Cronies will be back in 30 minutes. Chris DeBow, how are you doing, Chris? Sandy says, if you're wanting to, Jimmy ain't going to say no. Rails 19, greetings from Grand Junction, Colorado. Greetings from Missouri. And I actually have family out in Colorado. Woofy W says, please, on the recording of the trip tomorrow. John Warren says, not afraid of the camera, but it might be afraid of me. Nerm says, have not been keeping up well. How's the hammer going? I haven't done anything with the hammer. We moved into our house a couple years ago, and I had a bunch of stuff still stored in a friend of mine's enclosed trailer. And I had to empty his trailer out to get it back to him. And all that stuff that was in the enclosed trailer went into the garage. And so now I've got to get sorted through that stuff and get it out of the garage so I don't set it on fire when I'm working on the hammer. Let's see. Jason Helsley, where you been? They've been working you like a redhead. We've been busy. We have definitely been busy. Good Indian, how are you doing? This is watching from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not sure where that's at. I know it's over in the Middle East somewhere, I think, maybe. Andy B, how are you doing? Your name? Not sure if you remember, but about 4 weeks ago, I started my crane school, and I never realized how much stuff goes into cranes, like leveling out and rigging in the parts of the line, etc. A lot of work. If I can help you with anything, by all means, reach out to me. Shoot me an email. I will throw that in right here. And I'm one of those people, I will help anybody that's willing to help themselves. I'll do what I can to help them. So if you have any questions or if something just doesn't seem right and you want an opinion, I will give you my best educated opinion on it. In the crane world, sometimes there's many different ways to do things, and not necessarily any one of them's wrong. So just have an open mind with it. But if something definitely doesn't look right, for sure, question it. Senseless Fabrication says, I can't even imagine what those families are going through. It's crazy the amount of destruction that has happened through Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri. I think Illinois has been affected by it. And Norm says, "Oh, know all about that. Have stuff all over my place. Just got the main shop built, and now to get all the junk in its place." And someone threw out a $5.99 super chat, and I completely missed it. And for that, I apologize. I remember. Oh, Justin McKee. There it is. I appreciate that, sir. And you guys don't feel obligated to do that. If it's something that you want to do, by all means, go ahead. But don't feel obligated to do that. I appreciate it. Any money that I generate on this channel, I haven't spent a penny of it. And I've got kind of a goal worked out, and I haven't made a whole lot of money with it. It's still growing, and I'm definitely no PewDiePie or even Let's Dig 18 or anything. But last winter when I did the Hope for the Holidays kind of silent auction, I'm hoping to do another one again this year for the same cause, and I'm hoping to match the funds with some YouTube funds. So I'm saving all that back to see how much I can generate to donate to that same cause that we did last year. Let's see. Paul Woolner. Oh, West Indies, Caribbean. So Trinidad, Tobago, West Indies, and the Caribbean. I hope to go to the Caribbean someday, but I'm not swimming in the ocean. Sandy will tell you that. I'll look at it. I'll sit on the beach and watch the waves come in, but I'm not swimming in it. Paul Woolner says, "Experience Trump's education." Absolutely. Videos by Al. Ever seen Buckner heavy lift cranes? We have one stage close to us. I've never seen one in person, but I've seen pictures. Ryan, I think that's Hughie. How long have I been operating? Operating equipment since I was 18. I'll be 42 next month, so there you go. Been cranes, when I was a field mechanic at an equipment rental company, I had some crane experience there, and then really getting in the seat of cranes about the last 10, 12 years or so. Sandy says he's done a job in Trinidad. Nice place. I've never been to Trinidad. I've actually only been out of the country once, and that was to Canada when I was a kid in Niagara Falls. TJ Hardy, the flooding here is, it's manageable. There's still a few little places around our immediate area that have some water on them, but up and down the river, it's terrible. So Andy B, is that a new red shirt on the wall? That's actually not an entire shirt, but there's a red shirt behind it. That is an Operating Engineers Local 101, which is the local that I'm a member of. But that's a towel. I think it's a golf towel, and I don't golf, so that's a good place for it. Josh Wellner, pay it forward. I like it. And I really want to pay it forward, at least pay a lot of it forward. And last year we were able to raise $300 to give to Hope for the Holidays. And this year I'm hoping to maybe double or triple it. So it would make me ecstatic if I could give them $1,000 check or $1,000 in cash and deposit it in their account for Hope for the Holidays. And if any of you guys don't know what Hope for the Holidays is, I've got a video that's a ways back, right around Christmas time, a little bit before. Local radio station, they have families that write in, and it's legitimate stuff. People are actually vetted. But people that are down on their luck and they don't need a handout, they just need help getting back on their feet. So it's not like, hey, we're going to just come in here and we're going to give you a bunch of money. What they do is they get their bills from the collectors and pay some of that stuff. They fix their cars when they're broke down, stuff like that. So that's what Hope for the Holidays is. And Jennifer Murtha Stevens, how are you doing? She says, yo, Jimmy, how's it going? It's been so long. How are you? I've missed you so much. Been so busy. Jennifer Murtha Stevens donated the axe that we did the silent auction last year, and D. McDonald, one of my subscribers that won it, so it went to Colorado. And so yeah, that's where that money came from. We're going to do it again this year. I won't start it until November. Sean Tatham, Jimmy, does your company run all hydraulic cranes on rental or some lattice boom crawlers too? All of our rental cranes are hydros. We're not a really big company. What do we have? 3, 5, 6, 8 cranes. Videos by Al said, no, we've got 9 cranes. We've got 1 lattice boom for offloading barges that we haven't used yet. Videos by Al sent you a pic, your email, 53 semis to move it. That's a big crane. Brian Meyer, Mississippi River in St. Louis is going to be above flood stage through June. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of events that went into that whole Missouri River / Mississippi River flood. We could point the fingers a lot of directions, but initially, I don't think the Corps of Engineers was prepared for what was going to happen. And then now, it's just been a constant state of backup since then. So would it have been different had they had the reservoirs up north virtually empty before all this happened? I'm sure it probably would have. Can they do that? I don't know. I'm a crane operator. I'm not a hydrologist, so not even going to sit here and act like I can tell them how to do their job. But I do know we've had a tremendous amount of water coming down here, and it's coming from somewhere. So next year they probably ought to plan for that. Larry Ford just had a major windstorm here just north in Illinois, flash flood warning. So I'm trying to get caught up on comments. Looks like slowed down a little bit. I could probably get caught up now. Sandy said, customer of mine brought a small crane to help strip the rafters off the building, except they can't set up because it's too darn soft to get in where they want to set it up. They probably need to get them some crane mats. And they make some swamp mats that you can actually lay them down and drive in on them. James, I'm probably going to butcher your last name for that. I apologize, but Labutin maybe? Says I'm in the forestry equipment business, but always been fascinated by cranes. Appreciate and enjoy your content. I appreciate everybody watching. The growth on this channel has blown my mind. I mean, I think we're a year and 3 or 4 months into it, and it has blown my mind, the growth of the channel, and it's all because of you guys. It's you guys watching the videos and then sharing them and liking them and telling people about it. And you know, I couldn't do this on my own. This channel, and that's why I've always said, and you could ask people who have been here since day one, I want this channel to be about the subscribers. It's not so much about me. Sure, I'm the one operating the crane and editing videos and whatnot, but I want it to be about what you guys want to see. And I want you guys to feel like you're involved in it and be part of it. Jennifer Murtha Stevens says we can donate another axe if you want us to for it. I may put together a package kind of deal, and if you would be willing to donate one, that would be fantastic. And I'll see if I can put together some kind of package that we generate some real. $300 was fantastic last year. I want to try to up that this year, and we'll see what we can put together and make that happen. I may get a hold of Tadano, see if they'll send me another die cast, and I'll maybe try to throw that in with an axe and some other stuff, and we'll see what happens with it. Justin McKee says traffic on 36 sucks because of the flood. It's a lot of places like that. Brock Cole, just got my NCCCO and having a hard time trying to get a place to take me. if you can get into a small crane rental company, that's going to be probably your best foot in the door. And since you just got your crane certs, don't try to jump into the biggest rig that you run across. I don't know how, I mean, maybe you're very experienced before you got your crane certs. So in that case, it would be okay. But if you don't have some time in the seat, don't try to jump in the big cranes initially. So, John Warren says, I hope 36 open because I'll be coming across there tomorrow. I'm not, Justin McKee says it is. Okay. Sarisha B, Swamp Mat sounds fun. Jennifer Martha Stevens says, absolutely. Do you have my number and we can talk about it? Somewhere around here, I still have your card. I'll have to find it. Or I may have saved it in my phone. I'm not 100% certain, but I will get in touch with you before we get to that point. Gary Johnson, how are you doing? I haven't heard from Gary Johnson in a little while. He's in here under Yvonne Johnson, so he uses his wife's account and watches from that. But Gary fought a lot of medical this last year, and I'm glad to see your name on here and that you're still hanging out with us. Oh, phone is ringing. Let's send that one to voicemail. Jim Banks, is there some time you could show more setup in different places? Let me see what we've got coming up. I know we've got a bridge job coming up that we were supposed to do Friday, and weather ran us out. And it's going to be one you guys may want to watch. 96,000-pound bridge beams, and I'm tandem picking with a 55-ton American that was old in 1978. So I'm guessing it's a 60s model American crawler. So, and I've done a video in the past tandem picking with that same crane, but I don't know that the beams were that big. So I'm basically going to have to keep his end of the beam about 8 feet from his windshield. So that'll be a fun one. But 8 feet from his windshield should keep him within 75% of his chart, and we're taking full counterweight for the 200, so we'll have 110,000 pounds of counterweight, so I can stay within 75% of my chart. But I'll try to get some setup video on that. And setup is difficult for me to get because when I'm out recording video, I'm on the customer's dime. So like when we're taking the crane out to a job, I can't just go place my camera and spend time placing my camera, make sure it's set up correctly and ready to record. I have to focus on getting that crane set up because the customer's paying for it. So if I can get footage while I'm doing that, then I absolutely will. USMMCE, thanks, and please keep the interesting videos coming. I've got quite a bit of footage stored on my computer too. I need to go through and see what to throw out next. I've got, it's not crane footage, but we did an excavating job on one of our projects, and I got stuck in our 580 case backhoe for 2 days, and we had to pull 2 feet out of this area and then backfill it with a foot of rock, and then they're going to pour a foot of concrete. So the ground had been undisturbed for years, but I think there was an old railroad bed that had gone through it, and then just years of rock that had been backfilled into this spot. So it was terribly hard digging. And we typically excavate areas like that with a skid loader because it wasn't a huge area. It didn't require a track loader. Actually, a track loader would have been a lot better, but like a 953 or 963 cat. But anyway, I was ripping the ground out and just throwing dirt, running that 580 as fast as it would run. So I've got some footage of that if you guys want to see it, I can edit it and throw it out pretty quick, maybe get it out Tuesday or Wednesday. It's like I said, it's not crane footage, but it's me virtually abusing a 580 case Super L. Let's see, got to back up here. Kai Davis, I want to run a 500 ton crane, but I'm going to start at 100 ton. And there's not a lot of people that start at 100 ton. Most people start in boom trucks and Brodersons. So my advice is crawl before you walk, and don't get in a hurry. And take your time and learn what you can, because that 500 ton crane, there's a lot involved with the setup and teardown of it, and there's a whole lot of responsibility with it. Even 100 ton. Most 100 ton cranes will put up 200 feet. So anybody within 200 feet of that crane is your responsibility to make sure they go home. West Coast Kenny, how are you doing? Says my company just bought a Tadano 750 RT. My boss wants me to run on a job. Been running boom trucks, fixed cabs for the last 4 years. Is their big jump to a swing cab? Swing cabs are much easier. And Crane Op Mike, even he said it there too. Swing cab is much easier. US MMCE, I always said the good crane operator is worth his or her weight in gold. A good crane operator should never have to worry about having a job once you get established. So to those that are just getting going into this career, once you get established and you start getting a name for yourself out there and people see your capabilities, and the way it works is most companies are going to start you off with something small, and they're going to see how you handle it. And how you handle those smaller jobs and smaller cranes will dictate how fast you move into the bigger machines. The last thing you want to do is jump in a small rig and then get thrown into like a 500 ton with no experience. And, worst case scenarios could happen. I'm not going to say it's going to, but the worst case scenario could happen. But to answer your question, West Coast Kenny, swing cabs are much easier. You're not twisting your head around like an owl all day long. Ryan Huey ran a Tadano 250 5 years ago. Got some pretty good videos on my channel. Well, check them out. Chris Herner, I've seen blocks reeved and pinned to a dead man on the end of the boom, also pinned to the block, which is correct. It depends on how many parts of the line you're running. There you go, Nathan Mitz answered it. So if you're running 3 parts of the line, you're going to end up with the Beckett pinned to the block. If you're running odd numbered parts of the line, your Beckett's going to be on the block. If you're running even numbered parts of the line, your Beckett's going to be on the tip of the boom. Gary John said, oh, yeah, I had one 2 months ago. He'll email me. Brad Cole, how are you doing? Jason Heltzley, been watching a lot of your buddy Ron Pratt lately. It's just truly amazing what he can do with Tater. I think you guys should do a collaboration sometime if possible. Bella Stevens is checking out for the night. Thanks for stopping in, Bella. Hope you have a great evening as well. Woofy W, how are you? Let's see. So Jason Heltzley said we should collaborate with Ron Pratt. Ron Pratt's about 6 hours away from me. We would have to move footage back and forth. However, I'm going to be cruising through his area in July, and we've already made arrangements to stop and meet up for dinner. And so my family and Ron's family are going to meet up for dinner. And then hopefully I would like to run by a shop and check out his equipment and hang out a little bit. But we'll see how it goes. Shane Davis, Liebherr LR 1300 should have its boom in the air Monday at a job site I worked on. Would you like to run something like that? I would run anything except for I'm not going to run that old link belt friction rig that we've got. So yeah, Jason Heltzley, I'm hoping I can record a little bit of footage down there at Ron Pratt's place while I'm down there. We'll see. G4 Outdoors, how are you doing, Randy? Says we caught a giant crappie today. Where have you been hiding, Jimmy? Jimmy's been so busy that Jimmy's working on getting one video or one live stream in a week. And with as much footage as I've been getting, when things do slow down, I will have plenty of footage to carry me through some slow times when the snow starts flying this next winter. Nathan Mitt said on my 50-ton, I can run out 3 parts of line. I can scope out all 110 feet of main and reach the ground. If I run 4 parts, you can only run 90 feet. And that's what a lot of people need to keep an eye on. I've seen operators that will part a crane up, run out a bunch of stick, and they go to lower their block to the ground, and then all of a sudden they run out of rope on the drum and the block starts going back up. And that's because it's winding it backwards on the drum, which is very bad. John Z, how are you doing? Says Happy Father's Day. I appreciate that, sir. 45 Nuts are a TV show from England about a crane company on YouTube. Crane Gang BBC. 3 full show documentary 2013 all about crane biggest lifts. Huh. I haven't seen that. Overview. When you first broke out, did you find the process of lift planning with load charts on the spot became more second nature or less stressful? It does. I mean, also with that, sometimes people get complacent and they overlook stuff. The biggest thing that helps is you start memorizing where certain charts are in your book. Because the load chart book on the crane is, it's about that thick for all the different boom configurations, counterweight configurations, jib configurations, outrigger spans. And so you start figuring out where that stuff is in the book, and it makes it quicker and easier to find it. But also doing your lift planning, it does become more second nature because you start memorizing a lot of your deduction weights, where when you first get into a new crane or you're first turning out, you're having to look all that stuff up. So like I can tell you the ball on the Tadano weighs 661 pounds. If I've got 197 feet of main out with the 43 feet of swing away jib stowed on the side of the boom, then I have to deduct 480 pounds for the jib. So that's all stuff that you would have to look up when you're first getting going into it. So it makes it faster. It's a little bit less stressful. The stuff that isn't second nature is your job site assessment. And that should never be second nature. There should always be a procedure in which you go through and stuff that you look for. And if you do things in a particular order, I've found, like develop a routine, you'll overlook a lot less stuff. So, and overlooking stuff with a crane is bad. Every little detail matters. So Nathan Mitt says it's a good Sears. And what I must have missed something up here. Trying to think what else we got coming up. Got to go do some work at a pipeline pump station. I was actually out there for a couple days last week, but I can't record on site, so there's that. Trying to think what else we have coming up. We've got another house to do. I'm going to have some maintenance. If you guys want some maintenance videos, I've got some ABS sensors to replace on the 100-ton, our ATF 80-4. So I can get some footage of that. I did one on Friday, and it was a pain. They've been in there for a few years, and they didn't want to come out. So I didn't elect to record that first one because there was a lot of stuff that wasn't family friendly said during that process. But now that we've kind of got it figured out, the next one should go a little smoother, and we won't have to do as much editing on language. So, Jason Hiltzley, hopefully no cell towers for your sake. I hope no cell towers. Not a big fan. Senseless fabrication. Did you find out anything about last week when the crane got blown off of the building? I looked at some of the pictures. I didn't read a lot of the articles about it, but looking at some of the pictures, and if you guys want my take on it, I guess we can take a quick vote. You guys want my take on the crane accident that happened in Dallas? Unfortunately, a person was killed. There was many injured. I think the person that killed was like a pedestrian or someone in a building. I don't think it was an operator. or anyone on site. And those that know me, I don't take this stuff lightly when people turn a crane over or have a catastrophic failure and one comes down. And I especially don't take it lightly when there's loss of life. That's the human nature side of me. And I actually started getting a little bit choked up talking about the one that happened in Seattle. So hopefully that doesn't happen again on this one in Dallas. So I'm going to try to get through it pretty quick. Looking at how the tower was deformed, this is just my eyes looking at a few pictures. It looked like the crane maybe wasn't put in weather vane mode because it looked like the tower had done a little bit of this. And I mean, it's entirely possible too. I got hit with a microburst that was beyond the capability of the crane. Maybe it was in weather vane and the microburst happened so fast that the crane couldn't weather vane to protect itself. But there's a very real possibility that that crane wasn't put into weather vane before it was shut down. I don't know. I haven't read any articles about it. For those that don't know what weather vaning is, I can explain it. I could draw a picture on the old whiteboard over here. If you guys want me to draw a picture, let me know. But what weather vaning does is it allows the top structure to turn itself with the wind so it doesn't side load the jib on the tower crane. There was a pretty big vote on that. Mark Hewitt, hello from Scotland. Never seen Tadano over here, mostly Liebherr and DMAG. We have a TC 2800 and an LTM 1500 rigged up on site at the moment. Tadanos are great machines. I'm sure that you will start seeing them there. So Senseless Fabrication asked, how does that work? Okay, we'll get the board down. Oh, I'm rocking the old Bass Pro shirt. Went to Bass Pro Shops yesterday. What'd I buy? Oh, I bought a shirt. That's what I bought at Bass Pro Shops. Should have bought a boat. Okay, Senseless. J-Fast Truck, I have not worked with Deep South. Kai Davis said, my dad had a week and the crane fell on top of the house. He jumped out of the crane and went inside. Lucky no one got hurt. Ooh, that'd be no good. Okay. Again, anybody that's been following this channel for any length of time knows that I draw like a 5-year-old. So keep that in mind. So on a tower crane, you have your tower here. You have your jib across the top. And it can be different styles. We're not going to get into the different styles of tower cranes. And there'll be a hook hanging down with a trolley. Trolley moves back and forth across the jib. What weather vaning does is it puts this upper structure into free swing. So if, say this was just standing here and we had a wind blowing from this side, if this thing isn't weather vaned, then the wind is going to be side loading this jib. If it is weather vaned, then the wind will push this jib around and the wind will hit it right in the back of the jib. So that way it has less surface area for the wind to impact. It will basically just blow past the jib. That's why sometimes and there's videos on YouTube of these tower cranes in some storms, and you see them just kind of swinging around doing random stuff. It's because they're in weather vane mode. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're keeping themselves from getting turned over. But so if this thing was in weather vane, it would rotate itself around, essentially putting the wind load right at the back, which if you had looking at it from the backside, it would be that cross section versus this cross section. So there's a lot more surface area for that wind to hit. The reason why I think it may not have been weather vaned, and like I said, this is all speculation, is looking at the pictures, if this isn't weather vaned and you have the wind hitting it in the side, it's going to rotate this tower or try to twist the tower. So you're going to get a rotational force this way around the tower if the wind's hitting it here, and it will twist the tower legs kind of into themselves. So, and looking at the pictures, that kind of looks like that's what happened. But again, I wasn't there. I didn't shut the crane down. I haven't actually read any of the articles. I just looked at a few pictures, and that's my synopsis from just what I saw. The biggest thing is these crane accidents that are happening. We need to learn from them collectively. This goes beyond union, non-union, country versus, and this transcends borders of countries. This transcends the union, non-union debates that can be had. Collectively, construction as a whole needs to learn from these crane accidents. So, they're all tragedies. Even if there's no loss of life, it's a tragedy because the loss of the machine, the potential downtime and whatnot. But ultimately, you can't put a dollar figure on the loss of life that has happened with these crane accidents. And it's stuff that could be avoided, should be avoided. So there's my rant. My condolences to the families that were affected by it, and keep those people in your prayers. And people need to start learning from this stuff. This stuff doesn't just randomly happen. And like I said, it could have just been a freak thunderstorm. The wind capability went beyond what the crane was rated for and took it down. Okay, so let's get caught back on comments here, get back on track. Sandy, when you're bringing the Tadano or one of the boom trucks down in case of weather, do you have to retract the boom or just get it down out of the weather? It depends on how much boom's out and how much counterweight's on it and what the situation is. I've got some footage where we actually took a house off of a basement. It's been a couple of weeks ago, and a storm rolled in, and I had to get the boom out of the air. And in the video footage that I've got that I haven't edited yet, you can tell that there's some urgency. You can see the weather, and you can tell there's some urgency. And I'm explaining in that footage what I'm doing to get it down. So I may answer your question with that video when I get it posted. So I may, if you guys want me to, I'll make that one my next one. It's going to be a bear to edit it because it's a lot of footage, but I can make that my next one. TJ Hardy, have you guys seen Parrot Crane rigging in your area? I have not. Overview, thanks for your reply. Currently starting load charts in class, and it has given me a new insight on the amount of professionalism and responsibility crane operators bring to the site. Plaza Towing says, hey, buddy, sorry I'm late. Better late than never, Trent. How are you doing tonight? Senseless fabrication, what do you have to do to put it in weather vane mode? The hydros that I operate don't have weather vane mode. I don't operate a tower crane, but there's a procedure for putting in weather vane where it keeps the swing brake released and allows it to rotate. Brian, I may mess that one up. Brilla, maybe? If you fly blind, do you look at landing site? Like if I'm picking a piece and I can't see it, but I know where it's going to go, do I go preview that? I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the crew I'm working with. And if they tell me that there's obstructions or things I need to look out for, then yes, I will go preview the site before I go flying a piece into it. If it's just a big open roof and they tell me, hey, I need this bundle of whatever, this unit to go up on the roof wherever, and there's nothing to worry about hitting, all I need is a signal person to tell me where to put it. So sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes we are putting things in places with fractions of inches of accuracy. And those I typically like to get a good view of where I'm going to be feeding the piece through or down into and stuff like that. So it all depends on the job. Aerial Landscapes, how are you doing? Jason Heltz says, I'm going to ask this since there's a towing guy in the room. If you were to blow a tire on one of the Tadanos, could they possibly be towed, or would you have to change this? It can be flat towed, but it's going to take a pretty good truck to do it. And I don't have the tow bar for the Tadano. I'm not sure how the wrecker would attach to the front of it. But if we blow a tire, we'll just change it wherever we're at. We'll have someone bring a tire out to us, and we'll break it down and change it right where it's at. If I'm in the middle of a 4-lane highway or 3-lane highway, I'll just drive it on the wheel until I get it off the side of the road somewhere where we can change it. Sandy asked, there's pad eyes up there, right? No, sir. Nope, there's a tow hook. There's a tow point right in the center of it in the front, but that's it. It's like a place for a tow strap. No pad eyes up there, and a wheel lift ain't gonna get it. Plaza Towing, what Jimmy said, it'd be a slow, flat tow. Have towed 550 ton that way. And did they have the boom out of it and broke down? I mean, the 550 without the boom out of it would probably be easier to manage than the 200 with the boom in it and the dolly on the back. But hopefully I never have to worry about that. Wayne Tharp, how are you doing, Wayne? Says it'll be interesting to see how much crane insurance premiums go up next year from all the accidents. I know, and it for some reason it seems like this year's been bad with it. Sandy, you don't really need a wheel lift with outriggers. That's the good thing about a crane. If you got to change the tire, it's got built-in jacks. I can get all 10 of the big ones up off the ground, and if I need to change one on the dolly, I can set the crane up and pick the dolly up. So, pretty self-sufficient as far as knocking a tire off of it. It's not going to happen like a NASCAR pit crew. I can tell you that. One of those, I think they're 525 ADR. I don't remember. They're 525s. They're big. They're about 1,200 pounds a piece, I think. Oh, Plaza Towing said it had a boom and dolly. So you had a load. Hopefully we never have to tow the old Tadano. Exactly right, Senseless Fabrication. That's why you always have to do your pre-trip every time you drive it. And pre-trip inspections, I mean, they will save you from sitting on the side of the highway. Jeff McDonald, how are you doing? Silly question. Have you ever watched any of the tow truck videos with the rotator crane? Seems like they play a bit fast and loose. Jeff McDonald, it's funny you say that because Plaza Towing's on here and they have a rotator. But Plaza Towing and Ron Pratt definitely know their stuff. And when they don't know their stuff, like Trent with Plaza Towing, they just got this rotator not too long ago. And I'm very much admire the way they've approached that thing. They've taken it a little bit at a time. They haven't just jumped in with their hair on fire and tried to make things happen. And they're very methodical on the way they're doing things. And that's the way you have to be when you're picking stuff up. Ron Pratt's the same way. Some of the other tow channels I haven't really watched. I guess I'll just be honest. I haven't watched them. I've watched Plaza Towing and Ron Pratt. So there's your answer on that. I would make picks with Trent with Plaza Towing or Ron Pratt. I would tandem pick with them any day. Some of the others, I don't know. I haven't watched their footage. But I can see sometimes that there's, a wrecker is typically the last person they call. They're in situations sometimes where they have to get things done in a hurry, but that doesn't mean you have to sidestep everything to make it happen. So Cooper Mishu, how realistic was the TV show about O'Hare towing? I don't know. Trent with Plaza Towing could probably answer that. And I should get Trent on here is what I should do. Trent, are you still watching? You want to live stream, Trent? You want to jump in here on a live stream? We'll just buddy it up real fast. You can answer some of these questions that I can't answer. Shoot me. Do I have your email that you? Well, shoot me a text with the email you want me to send the invite to, and I'll send you an invite, and we'll just get you in this Google Hangout, and we'll make it happen. John Warren says, "Be right back. Got to push water up. Plaza Towing. I'll text you about the details." Okay, so as soon as Trent texts me, we'll send him an invite, and we'll have a combination show with Plaza Towing and To the Top Crane. Brewster, after you watch To the Top Crane and Plaza Towing, you've seen the best. I appreciate the compliment, sir. I kind of have this market cornered a little bit on the crane thing on YouTube. There's very few channels that do it. And that's a blessing and a curse, I guess, for me, because the blessing is there's not a lot of people that are doing it. So my footage is fairly unique on the world of YouTube. The curse to it is there's no one really to collaborate with on crane videos because, well, I'm kind of one of the only ones doing it. All right, let's see if we can get Trent in here. It's going to maybe take me a second. Hopefully I don't. If for some reason I knock this live stream out, I will start another one immediately. All right, Trent, you should have an invite, sir. Then I'm not sure how the audio is going to be, but we'll work through it. If you guys are patient, we'll work through it and make it happen. Uh-oh, just lost my chat. Where'd that go? Where'd my chat window go? There it is. Okay, let's see. Cooper makes you ask, how old do you have to be to work with cranes? For the crane certification I have, they require a DOT physical, and I think the NCCO is the same way. It's actually the NCCCO. Hey, there's Trent. How are you doing, Trent? DOT physical. Don't have any audio. Goes the same way. It's actually the NCCCO. Hang on a second. I got to mute. I got that unmuted. Physical. But I think the audio goes the same way. Oh, you've got my audio playing on your end, Trent.
There we go. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, it's because I had the actual live stream open in the background.
Perfect. So to answer Cooper's question real quick, said how old do you have to be? So you have to have DOT physical. So that puts you at 21, I think. And at 21 for CDL?
So the way I'm actually set up, I'm 20. I got my CDL at 18, and I am limited to intra-state. So I can't leave the state. So that's the only restriction until you're 21.
Gotcha. So I guess you could operate a crane at 18. Just you can't drive it out of the state.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So let's
see.
So welcome to the channel, Trent. You've never been on one of my live streams. I'm gonna have to change the title.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Looks like you're sitting at college, maybe.
I'm at home. I was actually one of my locks on my door decided to take a poop, and now we're fixing it. But that's on standby now. That's what I was doing.
Standby because you got stuck on my channel.
Yeah, I couldn't pass it up.
Oh.
So let's see. I can't see comments. That's the only thing I can't see.
If you pull the live stream up on, like, minimize it on half of your screen, and then just click pop out chat, and then change it from pop chat to live chat.
Gotcha. Let me do that really quick.
Victor the Ripper, how are you doing, Victor the Ripper? Said, "Oh, gross, kick that guy, Jimmy." Who are we kicking? I'm not kicking Trent out. Let's see. I'm trying to stay caught up on comments. Sometimes that's difficult. Rice
Okay,
Rock says hello from Rice. R. Weiss Rock. Hello from France. I like that. Like a kid. In August, we had a big lift on my build site. I'll have 550 ton. Hey, if you want to take pictures of it and shoot it to me, I'll show maybe some pictures on a live stream. LTM 1500 is a pretty good size rig. Oh, Victor the Ripper talking about feces. So what's new at Plaza Towing?
Well, at Plaza Towing, the same old, same old. We are, like you said, running the rotator. We actually just had to send it in for some warranty repair, which was interesting. It wasn't anything that we did. It was just a manufacturer defect. One of the wear pads on the underlift popped out, so we had to send that off. But that only took a day. And then we actually had a job down the street from the warranty place, so it all worked out. But other than that, just doing what we do. We've been pretty busy with the hot weather, making people's tires blow out and crash. Essentially, is what's happening. So everybody, check your tires.
I didn't even think about that. I guess it was like 120 in Death Valley the other day.
Oh yeah, it's just like the other day. I just posted a video 3 or 4 days ago, and the temperature we were working in was 114 degrees.
Oh yeah, but it's dry heat, right?
It is dry heat. So yeah, I couldn't imagine that with the humidity, but still, it's pretty miserable.
I get that all the time. I've got family that lives out in Colorado, and like, oh, out here it gets in the upper 90s, but it's dry heat, and I'm like, I don't care. My oven's dry heat, and it still cooks stuff.
Yeah, it's hot. So it's definitely not for everyone, and I'm fortunate enough to, well, depends how you want to look at it, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to have lived here my whole life, so I'm pretty used to it at this point, but still, it's miserable.
Well, and the plus side, I guess, to the low humidity is when you're sweating, it actually works.
Yeah, true. Very
so
true.
Back here, when it's like in August, we'll have 99 or 105 degree days with 90% humidity. The heat index is 118. And when you sweat, it does nothing but make you wet.
Exactly. Let's see.
Cooper asked a good question. Is a rotator comparable to a small crane?
So you can touch up on this too. In my opinion, it definitely has its comparable. It's comparable in certain aspects, but at the same time, it's very limited in aspects. And the way I put it is, I had the opportunity to work with a 50-ton truck-mounted crane. Typically, you'd see those kind of cranes lifting AC units and whatnot. Correct?
Yep.
So in this particular instance, they were lifting a 22,000 pound gearbox, which I posted a video about. And in that video, you can see that I had to be like inches away from the outrigger because it was right outside of their chart. And they stated, 22,000 pounds, and it's already outside their chart. And they knew that we had the rotator, and they were asking about it. And I said, well, just to put it into perspective, I could pick 17,000 pounds, 0 degrees, fully extended. So that just kind of puts it in your mind that there are places, I guess, where it can keep up and possibly outperform at that low angle. But it all just really depends on the truck itself. What's your thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Where a rotator would really excel is inside of a building.
Yeah, small spaces.
Where you have low headroom. Mm-hmm. You can't get a boom ran up. And I posted a video a while back on my channel where we had both of our big cranes inside of a building. And that would have been a perfect job for a couple big rotators. But there's not a couple big rotators that were big enough to handle them in our area. So we put our 2 big hydros in the building. But cranes are designed to pick up heavy stuff. and they're also designed to reach a long ways. So I don't know what your guys' rotator weighs, but I could put full counterweights on the Tadano and pick your rotator up probably 50 feet away from me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But also rotators are designed to pull on things very hard where cranes aren't. Cranes are only designed to lift things straight up and down.
Yeah.
So a rotator can drag something until it pulls itself over, or you can actually chain your rotator to another rotator and anchor it and use it to pull even harder. So they're similar in the fact that they can pick things up, but I kind of look at it this way: they both excel in what they were designed for.
Absolutely.
And there's a little gray area in between where they overlap.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it.
And however, I think I see pictures of that standard when I was studying up on my crane research. I don't know how that's going to work out for the rotator guys when they're picking up stuff.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's definitely, there's going to be a point where it's a turning point where they're really going to start enforcing that. So yeah. I guess it's just a matter of time.
Andy B says a rotator can repo your car. Well, Andy B, I can repo your house.
Yeah, there you go.
And I've got some videos to show it.
There you go.
Actually, I've got a video I was talking about earlier. I've got some footage from a few weeks ago where we actually pulled a modular house off of a basement and set it off to the side because they're going to build a panel house on the foundation. So,
oh wow,
that was different.
Let's see, where did I just see? And you can side load a rotator. Yeah, so that goes back to what Jamie was saying about how a crane is just designed to pick something straight up, and you can't winch with a a crane with a rotator. Like Jimmy said, you can pull stuff to you. And just to touch up on side loading, it's the rotator itself is not designed to be side loaded at all. It can take a side load, as we have seen in recovery instances, but you really, really do not want to side load your rotator at all, if possible. That's why they make that drag winch on our truck to allow us to pull at certain angles offset from just directly off the rear of the truck. So you're not putting side load on the boom. And we've seen it in videos before where they do side load the boom and the boom actually swings. It lets go essentially to prevent the ring gear, the turntable gear from shearing itself completely off.
Yeah, at some point, you'd probably move past the capacity of the swing brake.
Yeah, exactly.
And that the Tadano is kind of the same way. It's got a built-in, and I was told this by a engineer when I was explaining to him on that cell phone tower job when I got hit with that 44-mile-an-hour wind in the side, and which was terrifying.
I imagine.
And he told me, he said, typically, and he said, don't rely on this, but he said it's engineered to where if it gets hit with a hard enough wind in the side, it will push itself through its swing brake before it breaks the boom off.
Wow.
Based on how that boom was moving when I got hit, I had 246 feet of tip height and I got hit with 44-mile-an-hour wind in the side. Based on how that boom was bending and doing funny things, I don't know that I believe that it would push itself through the swing brake.
I've dealt with wind just with my little 38-foot boom. I can't imagine having that much stick out there and getting hit with a gust like that.
It was the most scared I've ever been in a crane.
Yeah, I believe.
That was one of those days I was questioning my career choice.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. And then 3 days later, I had to put all the jib in it and put up 330 feet of tip height. And the whole time you got that in the back of your head, man, what happens if that wind comes out of nowhere again? And now I've got 330 feet of boom out.
Whew. So that's a long ways out there. Let's see.
Nathan Mitz he's got a good point. He says he hates it when he has to turn tanks over by himself. As soon as the tank breaks the center of gravity, it takes the crane with it. And it absolutely does. And Nathan, there's some stuff that you can do to help alleviate that. I don't know if you have 2 winches on your rig, but 2 lining pieces definitely helps. And then also you can block a piece up and stand it up onto something to where it kind of catches it. And I've even, and I may have to show a video of it sometime, but I've even stood stuff up onto the back of a semi trailer before, just to keep it from, like, if you're bringing a piece up like this, and then once what he's talking about, once it gets to a certain point, it just stands up. Well, I've actually brought stuff up onto the back end of a semi truck and used the back end of the trailer to hold this end up to get it stood up without it flopping over.
Nice.
So when are you going to come to Missouri?
I would love to come to Missouri.
Get you some seat time in the old Tadano.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I don't know. I've always had a little fancy for cranes. So, that'd definitely be the biggest crane I would have sat in. I've sat in 100 tons, the biggest so far that I've gotten to play around with a little bit. And that was quite the experience, just to be able to figure out what everything does. And so it was pretty neat.
Well, and if you do make it to the area, plan a couple days, and we'll get you some seat time in the 200 ton, and then we can run down to Kansas City, and I might be able to get you in the seat of a 550.
Ooh, there you go.
So I don't know. I'll have to make some phone calls and talk to some people, but if we can't get you in the seat, we may be able to go look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's see. Enjoyed the training you did with Van Lingen Group. Yeah, it's the Van Lingen. They're good friends of mine through the industry, and that's, like Jimmy was saying earlier, I've taken this rotator idea with like a grain of salt, basically telling myself I know nothing about tow trucks anymore, and I'm going to learn this truck from the ground up and be the best and safest operator I can with that truck. So I've tried to put myself in situations with every company I can to try to learn from them and the ways that they've been doing it for the past however many years they've been doing it.
Yeah, Victor the Ripper asks if Trent is IUOE. Trent, Plaza Towing, I don't think is union out there in California, are you?
No, we're not.
I mean, most wrecker companies aren't.
No. Let's see. Trent, you're getting more comfortable with the new rig. Yep, just seat time. Or remote time, however you want to call it. We don't really have seats, but yeah, just control time is the biggest thing. Being able to practice, and I mean, even in the yard, I just throw out the boom, get a 5-gallon bucket, set up a little cone course, and try to get it through there, just like Jimmy had to do for his crane certification, or something comparable.
Yeah. And you can learn a lot just trying to put a big shackle in a 5-gallon bucket.
True that.
And I've seen guys that struggle with it. And some of it depends on the crane too. I mean, some of the newer rigs, they'll make a bad operator look good.
That's very true.
The biggest difference between a bad operator nowadays in the seat and a good operator is the risk that they're willing to take, because the crane controls are pretty smooth, and it's really hard to get them where they're really out of hand. Not saying that it can't happen. And Nathan Mitz just said, he said load control is a very big thing, and that's still true. But you can have a guy in the seat of like that 200-ton Tadano that is kind of herky-jerky, and the crane's not going to really respond that fast. But that same operator may be willing to, or that guy may be willing to take some unnecessary risk and put people in the crane in jeopardy. So. Victor the Ripper, while you're talking about cranes, that ain't fair. I've been subbed for 5 years. I want seat time on the Tadano. My channel hadn't even been around for 5 years. But if you make it to the area, I might be able to make it happen.
That's awesome.
So John Warren's going to be here tomorrow evening, and we'll probably take him down to the shop and show him around a little bit. And I don't know that I'll be able to get the crane out and set it up because it's in the dolly, but he'll at least get to go see it.
Nice. There is I don't know the rating on the crane itself, but we have a wind farm just west of us. so they have these big crawler cranes out there that are, I mean, I'm in awe at how big they are. It's insane how much reach or tip height they have to get up there to the nacelles on the top. It's blows me away.
It depends on the wind towers or the turbines that are up there, but it might be as small as a 500 ton, and it might be as big as an 1100 ton.
So, Jimmy, any interest in crawler cranes ever?
I don't know. I kind of like it where I'm at, and the only crawler crane we have is that link belt, and I'm not getting in it. So
that's the older one, right?
That old link belt 318 it's a 1977, I think. But I've been in some crawler cranes, and I mean, they're great to just sit on a job and sit in them. They're great for pick and carry as long as everything's level. But if you have one just a little bit out of level, you're fighting it the whole time you're sitting in it.
Oh, I believe it.
With a hydro, I can add a little bit to a jack cylinder and level back up.
Oh, wow.
So
with a crawler crane, you can walk or travel as long as you're level with your full load, or
yep.
You can,
as long as it's in your chart.
Wow. So, and do you have to do that directly in line with the tracks, or can you be offset?
If it's in your chart, you can make it happen.
Wow.
You can have it over the side. You can have it as long as there's a load chart for it, and it says in the book that you can walk with whatever load. You can just take off and roll with it. And there's going to be some of that when I do that bridge job next week. There's going to be some of that with that old 55-ton American.
Oh, really? That'd be neat to see.
I've got a video from last summer where I set bridge beams with the same company they're using that same crane, and he was walking with bridge beams with that old American. You have to go back and watch it. It looks pretty sketchy.
Wow. All right, let's see. I see some questions now here. Where do you want to start here?
Sandy asked if there's sensitivity settings on the controls. I can turn them down. I run every function on there is turned up all the way except for swing. Swing set at 60% because if I set it at 100% with that thing will flat get after it swinging. And if you have 200 feet of boom or 300 feet of boom out, that's swinging fast is not on your agenda.
Oh no. For the rotator itself, I have, I can't customize it in terms of percentage, but I have a 100% mode and a 50% mode. So when I do a technical pick, it's in 50. And but most of the time I'm running in full 100, and then I just feather the controls based on how fast I want to move it.
Yeah. So when I'm running slow in the crane, it's because I'm not moving the controls very far.
Right.
I've got everything turned up all the way, like I said, except for swing. And it's literally the difference between moving that joystick an eighth of an inch is how sensitive the controls are in it.
Wow.
Andy B says, I love doing cell towers. No, I don't. That has been determined that is a lie, Andy B.
Let's see. For Trent, I have two questions about rotators. The type of front outriggers between yours and rotator work. Okay. So you're talking about Malachi, and then is it a technical choice or just a price difference? So there's three variations of outrigger styles for for the Miller 1150, and it actually goes up into the 75-ton class as well. Two out of the three have a front H-beam style outrigger, which is a really good style outrigger. And then my outrigger style is a 4-stage rear outrigger setup. And then the 75-ton and has the option of a rear H-beam style. So essentially it would have the front outrigger that I have in the rear. So you'd have the same outrigger. So to touch upon those two, the H-beam is the superior style of outrigger because it goes directly out and then it plants itself, and there's no space in between, or there is space between the outrigger and the ground. Compare that to the model of outrigger that I have, which is the 4-stage rear, it actually goes out and the inner outrigger hits the ground as well as the outer outrigger. So you technically lose capacity when you are doing that because you're reducing your platform on which you're set up on. That's why we invested in these outrigger pads to essentially crib it up and reduce the amount of weight on the inner pad and increase the amount of weight on the outer pad. Comparing that to Malachi's rotator, he has, for those who don't know, have a swing out style outrigger that swings out from the body and then plants itself. And basically the only reason that that's there, it doesn't really have any much different capacity compared to my truck, but it increases the side stability for side pulling. So that's I guess you want to call it a more dedicated recovery unit because it has the side pulling winches that allow the truck to pull off the side with those outriggers. Hopefully that answered that. I don't know. I know from what I've seen out on the internet and YouTube, cribbing is very like a not even frowned upon, but it's not done very often in the rotator world. And I can speak from experience how important it is to crib. I'm sure Jimmy can testify to cribbing. If your platform fails underneath you, it's all game over from there. I know Jimmy uses giant outrigger pads for his big old Tadano. We have 30 inch by 30 inch, 2 inch thick Dyka pads that we put under our rotator for any lift that we do. It's, in our opinion, it's cheap. Well, not cheap. The pads were $1,200, but it's a method of insurance to ensure that you, one, have a solid platform, and two, you're not going to bust through the ground below you. So, yeah.
Yeah, your stability is paramount, and that goes with crane setup. If your crane's not set up correctly, everything you do from then on is incorrect.
Yep.
So, I mean, you have to have stability. You have, like on that Tadano, I have to have big pads. And big guns asked how heavy the crane is. I'm shooting from the hip, kind of adding stuff up in my head. If I'm sitting on a job with full counterweight on it, the Tadano's between 305 and 325,000 pounds, I think, sitting on the 4 outrigger pads. So that's why we've got big mats.
Yeah, a lot of people ask why we put outrigger pads when we're on solid asphalt. I mean, from someone who doesn't really have crane experience or any lifting experience, it wouldn't make sense to throw pads down when you're on solid asphalt. But especially in our heat environment here, where we see 120 degrees, well, actually like 128 at its peak of air temperature. Imagine what that black asphalt is. You never know what's under you. I mean, it could give out any second. So just preventing that as best as you can is our kind of method to our madness of what we do, why we put those pads down.
Even sometimes if I'm in our 50-ton boom truck, I'll throw pads down on concrete.
Yeah, and we do any like any concrete out on the highway, we throw the pads down. It just seems another thing that's very popular in the rotator world in terms of outriggers is people not putting their rear outriggers out because they say that their front H-beam outrigger, which it is true, takes 80% of the load of your lift. And it just seems so lazy to me why you wouldn't put your full outriggers out if you have the ability to do so.
Well, and sometimes it's about protecting the customer's surface too. We go into some high-profile places that they don't want their parking lot scuffed up.
Oh yeah, we've done lifts on at a racetrack here where they just put brand new racetrack pavement down, and obviously they didn't want their brand new pavement to be torn up. So the pads, cheap insurance in the grand scheme of thing.
So Cooper Mishu asked what the difference between an all-terrain and rough terrain crane is. And I can show you with the 2 die casts that I have, if I can keep from knocking a ceiling tile out above me. But so I'll grab both of these and we'll see what happens. So here is a die cast all-terrain crane. And in the crane world, this is a 1/50th scale, I think, 100-ton RT, which is a rough terrain crane. So they're designed just to go to a job site, cruise around off road. And then this is a 1/50th die cast of a 200-ton all-terrain. So it's designed to run down the highway, be set up on a job, get torn down, and go home. So that's the physical differences between the two, the carrier, whatnot. And then Crane Op Mike says all terrain is a lie, get stuck on everything. That's not 100% true. I've gone through some stuff with the old 200-ton Tadano that was pretty impressive. So granted, they are more limited off-road than what an RT is, but they will still perform pretty well as long as you don't try to put them in a situation that's, beyond their capability.
While you're putting that away, I'll hit up on this question from Cooper. Do you have to get a permit to tow a fully loaded semi? So it varies state by state, but I can say for my state particularly, we have an annual tow permit that permits us to, it exempts us from overall weight. It doesn't exempt us from axle weights, so we still can't exceed, for example, the rotator, I cannot exceed 59,126 pounds of the rear 3 axles, but that truck weighs 65,000 pounds. So 65,000 pounds plus 80,000 pound truck and trailer, it really doesn't matter what I have behind me as long as I do not exceed the posted axle weight. And then the tow permit also limits us to 100 miles radius from our shop. So that just gets me to Fontana, which is basically as far as we take our trucks, or take trucks, because that's where the dealerships are. So that's how that works.
Yeah, we have to get a permit to move the crane anytime we're outside of our commercial zone.
It's a logistical nightmare, I imagine, but I'm sure you guys have it down pat.
And sometimes. We had to go to Omaha a few weeks ago, and with the floods that have destroyed some of the roads in the area, they permitted us. I think our travel distance was 239 miles. And if we could have taken the most direct route, it would have been 130 miles, I think. So we had to go 109 miles out of our way.
Jeez.
And I calculated my average speed with fuel stops and everything. My average speed was like 36 miles an hour.
The long haul. Max overall length, not regulated as long as we stay within 100 miles.
Wow. What happened to the sound there?
What's that?
I don't know what happened to the sound. I don't know if it's on my end or your end. It's back to normal now.
Okay.
I was getting some crazy stuff through my speakers.
Were you?
Sandy asked if someone was running a vacuum cleaner. Victor the Ripper on my ears.
Sorry if it was me. I don't know what I did, but sorry.
I don't know what that was. TJ Hardy asked, what were you working in Omaha? We were at an intermodal facility putting together a container mover. So couldn't get footage in there.
So, Jimmy, have you ever put yourself in a situation yet with YouTube where it's jeopardized your business in any way or upset a customer? Just out of curiosity, because I have been in that situation.
Not yet. I mean, I've had some people comment that, hey, you need to do this different, or it never fails when I go to do one of these bridge jobs and we're out in the middle of nowhere and people are, they're not wearing a vest or no one's got hard hats on and stuff. And a lot of times people don't understand that PPE is typically dictated by a job site.
Yeah.
And we're a hired entity to go in and do these jobs. It's not my job to go in and say, hey, you guys need to do this and this and this. And my job's to go in and safely move whatever they hired us to move. So, but I ask all of the customers before I record, hey, are you guys okay with this? And, I've had a few that they said, no, don't record it. And so I respect their blessings on it and don't record it. And just like the job we did in Omaha, they wouldn't let me record in their pipeline job that I did last week. No cameras on site. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I've been on some no camera on site just right off the bat. Didn't even have to ask, and it already was posted. So I obviously respected that. When I first started the channel, I was recording every single job that I went on, and that ended up being a nightmare in terms of our accounts. Obviously, didn't like their stuff being shown towed, so that sparked some interesting conversations. Luckily, we didn't lose any accounts as a result of that, but it definitely opened my eyes to what can and can't be recorded. So now we strictly either ask some of our accounts, for example, like our equipment hauling stuff, it doesn't portray their equipment in a bad way. It actually portrays their equipment in a good way because it's just free advertisement. So that's not really an issue. But yeah, like for example, I had a car hauler rolled over last week, and the company, a very big company, called us before we were even on scene and said, "Hey, we know you have a YouTube channel. We're actually a fan of your YouTube channel, but we'd appreciate it if you don't post a video." So
yeah, and my channel is not nearly as big as yours is, so that might be the difference too.
with that,
you're over 50,000, I think, aren't you?
Yeah. With that being said, just be conscious, I guess, and just because I made the mistake, and I'd hate to see other people make the mistake.
No, and our owner, he was pretty leery about it at first, and when he started seeing the content I was putting out, and he was okay with it. And I'm not going to intentionally put something on here that's going to get someone in trouble.
Right.
People got to understand there are limitations, and I always ask the customer, always, even if it's a customer that I've picked for before and it was okay, maybe something's changed where it's not okay.
Yep. So, you just never know. You got to protect yourself. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, so far we're doing okay, but I'm only little over a year into it, and I think 6,600 subscribers or something. So
just keep pushing. Let's see. The difference in controls between yours and Ron Pratt. So my controls are simpler. We'll put it that way. Not saying they're better, not saying they're worse. As a matter of fact, there's many things about Ron Pratt's controls that I wish I had. But I guess the biggest reason that we went with our style of controls is the remote is about this big as compared to the other one, which is like this big. So it's very difficult to operate that remote by yourself. So say you're trying to hold the chain in place and cable up, and it's very difficult to do with that large remote. So with our smaller remote, that's kind of the reason we went with that. But there is a on-screen load scale on Ron's remote that is really nice because oftentimes I'll find myself running back to the truck to look at the scale when his remote is just right on the display. So that's pretty nice. But other than that, you get the same functions. They're just different ways about going about it.
Yeah. Victor the Ripper, don't heckle Trent. He's kind of picking on you a little bit.
I see. It's all right.
Yeah.
It happens. I'm used to it.
No heckling Trent. Trent's a good guy.
I totally realize I messed up. That's why I'm telling Mr. Jimmy here to try not to make the same mistakes I did. I'm willing to admit to it.
Yeah, we all make mistakes in life. The key is learning from them and try to limit them to where they don't do much damage, especially in the fields that we're in. So, absolutely. A mistake in a rotator or a crane. I mean, it can be. We've shown this year with crane accidents alone that it can be catastrophic.
Oh yeah.
And so you just try to keep them to a minimum. But everybody makes mistakes, and I've had people ask me that. I'm like, dude, as soon as someone walks on water, I'll follow them. It's part of human nature.
So Jimmy, I see your big die-cast crane models, which I'm very intrigued by. I actually want one myself, but here's my rotator model. I think you will appreciate it.
Isn't that cute?
Oh my goodness. It's even got a little extendable boom.
Huh. Is that a rotator or a little boom truck?
What's that?
Is that a little rotator or is that a boom truck?
It doesn't have outriggers, so I am curious on the stability off the side.
Huh. I would say it's not much. And based on the fact that it doesn't weigh much, the stability is going to be
right. I just saw that up here on my desk, and I thought that was kind of funny. That'll be how I show people rotator models and diagrams.
Yeah.
Let's see, Trent, how many years has your family been in the towing and recovery business? 50 years, actually, this year. This January was 50 years. We purchased Unit 50, the 50-ton rotator. As you can see, lots of 50s. So that's where that all came about, 50 years. Does your boom roll forward and backwards? No, it does not, although I wish it did. But due to good old California weight restrictions, it was not permittable.
Let's see. Jeff McDonald asked me, do I have any brand preferences with cranes? I've operated a lot of different brands, and the Tadanos have been good machines. I've been in that 200 now for over 2 years, and they're good machines. They stand behind them. They've got good customer support. I mean, not taking anything away from the other ones. Lee Bear's a good machine. I mean, they all build good machines. So. Mitzvah school, no screw up allowed in cranes in 200-ton plus class, $3.5 million or $3 to $5 million. That's fact. We bought ours used, and it was, I think, $1 million Canadian. It came from Canada or thereabouts. I'm not sure. I didn't write the check. So, but. Oh, Andy B asked, Trent, what do you think about rope versus cable?
Are we speaking upon because I know
probably synthetic rope versus steel.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So we actually highly considered synthetic rope for our rotator due to weight restrictions and weight savings. And we calculated at about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of weight savings if we were to go with a synthetic. And the only reason that we did not go with synthetic is simply the wear and tear that you do get with the synthetic. With that being said, obviously we're very conscious upon not letting our rope hit any sharp edges, but especially in the recovery business, it's just inevitable. It's gonna happen whether you want to or not. Pulling it through mud, pulling it through anything, or running it up and over a trailer edge. In our opinion, the risk involved wasn't worth the savings that we would have gotten. On top of that, the rope is synthetic is 3 to 4 times more expensive than a steel alternative. What was the other thing I was thinking about? And then the heat. They say, don't quote me on this, but it's above a certain temperature, which we would be in that class during the summer, it would degrade the rope. I think it was 20% faster than if you were to just be in regular climates. So those are some of the deciding factors of why we didn't go with it. And so far we're happy with it. I mean, I know I was out with family, and I was over there, and LA County Fire brought their brand new NRC rotator with synthetic, and it's really nice. It's really light. It's actually stupid light. You can walk with 300 feet of cable. So, but that's why.
Yeah, and availability is another aspect of it too. And if you rigged your truck up, and cranes, they have synthetic rope for cranes now. And if you get rigged up for that particular rope, and then something happens where you have to switch it out to steel, then you typically have to buy new end terminals and end connections. And
yep.
So
now, one aspect that I can see synthetic And for us, it's particularly not applicable. But back in the eastern states, there's a huge need for flatbeds, the rollbacks, doing recoveries of cars 120 feet out. And those trucks only have 50 feet of cable. So I could definitely see, and I know people do it, they have 100-foot extensions of synthetic rope. I could see that being pretty beneficial because it's obviously way lighter than having a steel alternative of 100 feet of it. So that seems like a neat way to go about it. But I think for the time being, we will stick with the steel alternative.
Yeah, that's what we run on our cranes is steel. That's what they've been using for 100 years.
And especially for your application, I don't really see a need for going synthetic. I know the biggest reasons that people want to put synthetic on a rotator is obviously we don't have 500 to 1,500 pound blocks sitting on the bottom of our cable, so we can't really power out with a cable. Synthetic, you kind of can. And then another reason is we do pulling work, so we have to pull 150, 200 feet of steel cable, which is a very tiresome task. So to pull out synthetic, I can definitely see that being a plus side. But in terms of crane lifting and being able to power out with a cable, the only time you're really pulling out cable, correct me if I'm wrong, is when you're reeving it through the blocks, correct?
Reeving it through the blocks or swinging the jib.
Right. So I don't know. And correct me if I'm wrong again, but I just feel like the crane world, it seems like there's not really a really deciding factor of why we need lighter cable. But you're the crane guy.
There's always weight savings that's beneficial on a crane, and especially when you start running more parts of line. The more parts of line adds weight to the pick. And so you could actually free up a little bit of capacity in your chart with it. And,
yeah, that makes sense.
There's pros and cons to it.
Absolutely.
Victor the Ripper is on you for some reason, and I don't understand it. So, Victor the Ripper, stop picking up.
Deleted on my end. So
yeah, Sandy deleted him, and I don't get it. So. Yeah. I guess I'm going to make a new rule going forward. If I have a guest on my live stream and you're going to heckle them, then we're going to block you from the live stream. We'll just leave it at that. And if someone unsubscribes, I don't care.
See, the funny part was that earlier Victor the Ripper said, "What's your channel, Trent?" So I don't really think he even knows who I am. It's just picking fights. It's all right.
And he's been a long time subscriber, and every now and then he'll come in and even pick on me a little bit, and I'm okay with that. I've got broad shoulders for a reason. I can take that kind of stuff, but I'm not gonna have someone on my channel as a guest and then have some of my subscribers beating up on my guest on my channel. You wouldn't be on here if I didn't appreciate what you do and didn't appreciate your channel and
appreciate it. Likewise.
So stop picking on my guests. So now that we got that out of the way,
I'm curious what he said. You'll have to text me that if you still have it.
Oh, I can view deleted message. We'll see. Victor the Ripper said, Trent is a bad boy recording his clients. Are you going to reprimand him for not notifying his subs about this live stream with you? This was a completely impromptu deal. You showed up just to watch the live stream, and then I was like, hey, there's Trent. People asking questions.
Yeah, I was sitting here working on my locks, watching your live stream. You put me on the spot, but
I did. I
appreciate it. I'm glad to join.
You're rolling with it. It's all good.
Still have the locks here. It's all right.
So, but this channel isn't all about subscriber count, and it isn't all about one thing or another. This channel is about showing cranes in a different light versus what most of the crane videos are on YouTube, and teaching the younger generation that, hey, you can earn a living without going to college. You just got to be skilled.
Absolutely.
And if people pick up a few tips along the way, then so be it. But I'm not going to let someone sit here and pick on people on my channel.
Jason, haven't watched many of your videos, but I'll check the channel out soon. Thanks. Appreciate it. In terms of my lifts and picks, I guess one way that I'd say I'm a little bit different than other channels is I really analyze how I'm doing it in similar to the way Jimmy would do it. Pre-lift planning, examining the way that the rigging that I have, what it's rated at, the working load limits, and making sure that everything is basically squared away and perfect. And I actually talk to my audience about how I do that, why I'm doing it, and the reasons because of it. So I feel like crane guys would enjoy those sorts of things.
Well, you guys have had some stuff on your channel that I've pointed out here and there, and it's constructive criticism, and it's mainly when you guys first started going.
Yeah,
so
and I'm all for it. I love constructive criticism.
And I'm the same way. I'd take constructive criticism.
Yep, we're not perfect.
Woofy W said now a kick butt stream would be the two of you along with Mr. Pratt all in the same stream. The only drawback to getting 3 people going on a stream, 3 or more, is it starts getting chaotic because if people, and it's really easy to talk over one another on this kind of stuff. And if you got 3 people going, a lot of times your guys' screen will flash back and forth from person to person pretty rapidly. But we might be able to make that happen. I can talk to Ron and we can see if we can set something up. I don't know that you've ever communicated with Ron directly, have you, Trent?
I've talked to him on the phone and texted him.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing on YouTube per se.
So we can maybe put something together.
Yeah, Ron was one of the people that I spoke to as we were getting the rotator, just to get some hands-on or frontline experience on the truck and just some tips and tricks to the trade on the truck.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, is helping each other. That's really what life should be about, is kind of helping each other.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see if we can orchestrate something like that. It'd be kind of cool if one of the channels with 50 or 200,000 subscribers hosted it instead of the channel with 6,600.
There you go. I think for the both of us, we should go on the 200.
Yeah. Well, or even for me, I could just start small and go on your channel. I mean, you've got what, 50-some thousand? 73,000. Okay. So you're almost at the silver play button.
End of the summer. That's the goal.
Really?
We're pushing for it. We'll see.
So just dropping hints out there. I'd be available on a live stream on one of yours if you want to have me.
Absolutely. I'm down for it. I'll see when my next day's off. Today's my day off, so we'll see when the next one is, and we'll get it scheduled.
So, Victor the Ripper, I'm going to unsub to Jimmy and sub to you, Trent. Can I get some tow truck seat time?
Oh boy.
I don't care. I watch my subscriber count do this all the time.
Yep.
It is what it is. Been doing this just a little over a year. I think I've got fairly decent growth going. So I'm curious what it'll be like in a year from now. So we'll see. So what questions we got here? Okay. Baba Bong said, I watched the video where you were putting the docks in. My question, what that camera on? That thing was flopping around so bad, but still a great video. I know, and I had it hang. I've got a magnet mount that I made for it, and I've got it. I had it hanging on the anti-2 block weight, which is only about 3 pounds, and it's maybe it's more than 3, maybe it's about 10, but it's a square weight about yay big, and it's just hanging on a chain, and it surrounds the cable. And that if I pull the block up too high, it activates a switch that shuts the winch off. And that block was just sitting there spinning with that camera on it. That's why it was doing that. So Alex Eganberger asked Jimmy, how's the hammer coming? I haven't done anything with the hammer. I've got some stuff in my garage that I will burn my house down with if I start welding on the old hammer right now. So I got to get that stuff out of my garage before I can start back in on it. So Mickey Colgan gave us a good compliment. Says, hey guys, just want to say thanks for great quality vids you produce. Longtime subscriber of both channels, been watching Trent since you had your old channel up. So thanks for the compliments on that.
Thank you, sir.
So Victor the Ripper says, what's the channel's name for real? First time really learning about rotator trucks. Pretty sick. So here's the skinny, Victor. You can't go over there to Trent's channel and start talking trash if you're going to subscribe to him. You got to watch his videos and be a good subscriber and comment and thumbs up and all that stuff. So, but it's Plaza Towing. So.
Yep, that's me.
So Von Heels asks a good question. Said, how do you both approach situations where suction, like pulling things out of mud, is a concern?
Definitely have to approach it with caution. Anytime you are pulling something that has an added resistance, you want to calculate that into your pull. So I don't know them right off the top of my head, but anytime we have some pretty major pulls, we come up with rough calculations on what the unit weighs that we're pulling, the added resistance of it. Hey, Victor the Ripper, subscribe to me. I don't know if you guys heard that little chime thing. So you have to calculate the added resistance. So do not quote me on this, but let's just give it a rough estimate. That if, say, you have a 50,000 pound machine stuck axle deep in mud, you're essentially pulling out 100 and I think it's like 133% of that load. So you definitely have to take that in consideration in terms of adding additional resistance to the pull in the end. It's not just the weight of the vehicle, it's actually more.
And like we do some work with that, and I've actually got, I think, some video on my channel where I was pulling some spuds out of a dock barge at our local plant, and those spuds actually sink down into the riverbed and anchor that barge in place, and they get some suction on them. And but we know what the weights are, and like Sandy just posted, he said over rig and pull slow. And so the way I approach stuff like that is I have a pretty known weight of what it is. I'll get it pretty close to that weight and just start inching up on it and watching the piece. And a lot of times, once you get to its weight, it'll start to wiggle. And once it starts to wiggle, you can add just a little bit and it'll start moving it. And just move it a little bit at a time until you get it out of it, whatever it's stuck in.
Yep.
So Cecil McKinley, retired safety office from USACE. Love your safety diligence. And Trent and I are both diligent on safety, because if you're not, people don't go home.
Oh, absolutely not. Excuse me for 1 second, Jimmy. I'll be right back.
Let's see. Our Weiss Rock Run has a video where his truck was sliding, pulling too small axle truck. It was surprising. Midsville's going, we jet piling spuds out to break suction. That'd be a good plan. But yeah, it's amazing how much force suction can have on something when you're trying to move it. And a lot of times people underestimate it, and they end up getting up on something and they turn it into a slingshot. And that's one of the things that, well, everybody knows I don't like cell phone towers, but one of the other things I don't like is demolition work, because a lot of times you're pulling stuff that's up high, and you're dealing with weights that are somewhat calculated, but there's still a lot of unknowns as far as how a piece is going to react when it's finally cut loose. And so you got to be really diligent when you're doing demolition work, demolition, tree work, stuff like that. Nathan admits it's never fun when you come up on a load and it breaks loose. That's a fact. Von Heel says that spud video is actually what I was referring to. I presume you're always watching your load, so if you see suddenly start rising, you probably have to stop and reassess why it's stuck. Yeah, and those spuds, we handle them a lot, and so we know what the weights of those are. And we do. I spend a lot of time with my eyes moving from my computer screen to the piece that I'm picking, and all around, people are on the job site, and That's why I don't typically put a camera on my hard hat. However, when I was in that 580 case backhoe, basically abusing it, I had the camera on my hard hat. And so it may make some of you guys sick when you see it. There is a lot, I'm going to warn everybody now, there is a lot of head movement and a lot of camera movement on that video. So I'll try to, when I edit it, I'll try to keep that under control, but we'll see how it goes. Mike Manfred, how are you doing, Mike Manfred? Tell Charles I said hello. Mitzvah Golem, Seattle Crane Tower pins removed. Yeah, that was a bad deal. Josh Wellner, is that why you don't like tree work? That in the crane world, crane operators typically dislike anything that they can't calculate or that is an unknown, because our job is very calculated. Everything that we do is calculated, and it's that way for a reason, because if you can keep track of everything that you can calculate, then you can keep track of everything that's going on with the machine. And when you have unknowns involved, then that's stuff that's outside of what we like to deal with. Sandy bouncing around like Yahtzee dice. Sometimes that happens. Sandy, I bet there was some French spoke when that happened. Von Heels, he said, I know from experience running excavators, you can start pulling on something awfully hard without realizing it if you're not diligent. Yeah. Yeah, Mitzvah's Golem, he says tree work's really risky. I had close calls with that. And I actually had one myself. It's scary when you're sitting in a crane and a guy pushes the trunk of a tree off the side of another tree trunk, and it loads you hard enough that it pulls both of your outriggers that are behind you off the ground. And I've had that happen. That was kind of in the beginning of my crane career, taking a tree down, and the guy was in a hurry and took too big a piece and pushed it off the stump away from me instead of pushing it towards me, pushed it off away from me, so it loaded me even harder. And I felt both of my outriggers come off the ground that were on the backside of me. Actually, they came up off the ground 3 times. Once pretty far, and then the last 2 times a little lower.
I'm back, by the way.
Yep, I see you. Sandy, I might have sworn at him a bit. Sandy, I absolutely did. Me and that guy had a very, very direct conversation from about 100 feet away. And that I wasn't in the Tadano at that time. I was in a smaller crane. Victor Ripper, he's asked you a good question.
Sure. I see that. Okay, how many of your calls are for recovering stolen heavy equipment? In my experience, I can only think of 3 instances where I picked up stolen heavy equipment. But we do a lot of stolen vehicles, just not heavy equipment per se. Doesn't seem like people steal heavy equipment. I'm sure they do, but we do a lot of vehicular stolen vehicles where people, and we tow them back to our yard and then they come and pick them up.
Yeah. Andy B asked how my parents said hadn't seen them on here. My parents are doing good. They're busier than all get out. Busier than they want to be since they're ready to retire. So, but they're doing good. Von Heels, my guess would be as soon as outriggers came off, the sphincter instantly gripped the seat very tightly. Oh, you have no idea. Yeah, it's amazing what'll happen to a guy when you feel like you're going over.
Victor says vehicles with that huge truck. No, so we actually use, we have a plethora of different pieces of equipment specialized for moving cars or semis or equipment. So we usually use flatbeds for smaller vehicles, and then our big low boys for equipment, RVs, and then our wreckers for semis.
So Daniel Easter's heading out. Thanks for watching, Daniel, being part of the
Thank
channel.
you.
So I've gotten some pictures emailed to me of some big cranes, so we'll throw some of these out there. There's one up. Come on, focus. That's a pretty good sized rig that it's not focusing on. Let's check one of these other emails.
I see a comment here. Full speed boom up saves lives.
Saves it. Yeah, it can save it.
Yeah. So
you can also make it worse if you do it at the wrong time.
Sure. Yeah. That's something that I kind of preach to my dad and another operator who runs the new truck. It's almost counterintuitive, would you say so, Jamie, about how essentially lifting your load to fix yourself from falling. I don't know. It just seems counterintuitive to me, but it totally makes sense why you do that, bringing the load closer.
Yeah, you're getting you're shortening up your radius, which increases your capacity.
Right.
But if you're at a certain point and you grab a lot of boom up, then it can actually turn you over.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the edge of going over and you grab a handful of boom up with a foot full of throttle, just the inertia of it bringing the boom back can turn the carrier over. So I got a picture from Nathan Mitz. He's on here. This is the rig that he operates. See if we can get it to focus on that. So there's the rig that Nathan Mitz sits in. You guys see him commenting in here.
Nice.
And then what else do we have? Oh, got a picture of a big crawler before the boom's been installed. So that's a pretty good size rig.
Yeah. Look at the tracks. The size of my house.
Yeah, it's a pretty big rig. Anytime you have planetaries at both ends of the track assembly, it's pretty big.
Mm-hmm. While you're grabbing another picture, or maybe out, but I'll hit some of these questions. Trent, how are you liking the rotator? Absolutely love it. I'm glad that I learned on a traditional wrecker before I moved to this, because now I'm absolutely spoiled. So we love it. It makes life pretty easy. How many units do we have? We currently have 33 trucks. And how do you bill recoveries? Is it an hourly based thing? In the state of California, we are regulated by the California Highway Patrol and any other agency, but the California Highway Patrol is our biggest regulatory agency that we deal with that regulates our rates. So each truck is set at a set rate per hour. So yeah, it is a per hour thing, but the rates isn't like whatever we say it is. It's regulated by CHP, and then anything that's not a police call is just our own hourly rate that we come up with. So, yeah.
And Sandy asks if I'm assuming he means by the cranes, do they handle funny sitting out in front of the steer tires like that? Going down the road straight, I mean, I can set the cruise on that Tadano and drive it with one hand. It runs down the road pretty well, as long as you're not on a nasty 2-lane road that's real choppy or has a lot of ruts worn in it. But when you make your turns, you have to turn later than what you normally would. Otherwise, you'll turn yourself into a sign or off into a ditch. So that's the biggest thing is when you're turning. Dirty digging. We had a 5275 on a job setting a house on Thursday. So that's a Grove 275, 5-axle, 275 ton. Andy B. Jimmy, I've seen a crane with counterweight on rail rolling. Do you know the tons? It just depends on the crane. There's a lot of different cranes that have ringer attachments for them. And that's what that is. It's a ringer that moves your counterweight. You can put an immense amount of counterweight on a ringer, and it just rotates on that set of tracks. Some of them, they just have tires that they rotate on, but some of them are on like railroad tracks. So, well, we're a little over 8 o'clock here. What is it there? 6?
Yep, 6:05.
Daylight. Mine's running out.
Yeah, still got it. It'll be daylight till about 8 o'clock here.
Yeah. But I'm probably going to shut this down here pretty quick. I've still got family to hang out with, and my 16-year-old son started his first job about a week ago, and he'll be getting off work shortly. So
nice. Well, then let's end with this. Let's talk about our weeks ahead. What do you have planned for this week? Any jobs?
I know I got a bridge job that pushed from Friday that they want to try to get in this week. I may have to go to a pipeline job that we were on last week and hold some stuff while they do some pressure testing. And I've got a house to pick, and I've got a lot of maintenance to do. I've got some work to do on our 100-ton Tadano. The old 200 is going to be up for service soon on the upper and the lower, so we'll probably record some of that. That's an event. I think it's a lot of work to service that crane as far as changing all the filters and all the fluid. Yeah. I don't change hydraulic oil, but we change engine oil, all the filters. A lot of crawling around. We'll get some of it on video.
Nice.
So what do you got coming up?
I don't have, unless, well, I'm sure something came in over the weekend that I'm just not aware about because I was off yesterday and today. So we'll see what is in store when I go in tomorrow morning. But I know some things that are on my list to get done this week is the rotator needs greasing on the turntable. It needs greasing there. That's a every 6-month ordeal. So we're coming up on that. And then I have 3 of my units that need just a PM preventive maintenance cycle this week. So we need to get that done. And then I also have a few 90-day inspections that need to get done. And we're currently working on kind of not really a renovation, but more of a just housekeeping thing of our shop. We're just have a big dumpster and we're throwing away stuff we don't need or never need. Just trying to make the shop look nice. So that's what's on the schedule. And then
if you don't do that, you end up tripping over it.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of jobs, a lot of times we have scheduled stuff in terms of equipment moves, lifts, stuff like that. Those are scheduled stuff. But with the towing business, someone doesn't know when they're going to break down, so they call you when they break down. So that's kind of how that goes. I'm sure. Usually Mondays and Fridays are pretty busy. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Well, yeah, you got rush hour traffic, like Mike Manford just said.
Yeah, I didn't even. Yep, rush hour Monday. Exactly.
Yeah. And people coming out of the weekend, they still haven't got their head out of the weekend mode.
Yep, car's been sitting for 2 days, ready to go to work. Try to start it, battery's dead, something along those lines. Usually pretty common.
Yeah. So, well, Trent, thanks for coming on, especially with short notice. I mean, I really did put you on the spot there.
Thanks for having me.
I apologize, but we've been talking about doing this for a while, and
yeah, I'm glad we did.
Work out. So,
cool.
Yeah, let me know when you want to do on yours, as long as I'm not sitting in the crane. And actually, if I'm sitting in the crane plumb bobbing, which is what we call it when we're sitting there doing nothing, making sure our cable's straight, I can probably sneak one in. But
cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, and look forward to working with you. So,
yeah. For those that haven't checked out Plaza Towing, that's Trent with Plaza Towing. So if you're on my channel and you haven't checked out Plaza Towing, go over there and hit the subscribe button first thing, and then hit the bell, and then start binge watching everything that he's got.
And if you guys are just interested in the rotator work, I have some playlists put together with just rotator jobs. So if you're more of a crane guy, that's probably the playlist you want to check out. So,
all righty.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. We'll talk soon. We'll try to set up a live stream on my channel. So.
Perfect. Well, right, everybody, it's 10 after 8. I'm going to shut this thing down, go hang out with the family. It is Father's Day. So again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Thanks for being part of all of this. I appreciate everyone greatly. Even Victor the Ripper when he's picking on people, but don't come on here and pick on people. So we got that out of the way, 4 or 5 times now. But everybody keep the dirty side down. Be safe out there. And you guys always keep me humble. And for that, I appreciate each and every one of you. So with that, To the Top Crane is out.